We're so excited to start off this Essential Conversations series. We've got several fabulous shows, but I think today will really kick us into gear in such a meaningful way. I'm so thrilled that Kevin Mulcahy is joining us. He is a giant in the field of fighting child abuse, a prosecutor, a survivor. He's just been a huge important figure in this fight. But one of the things that for Denton County, he spoke at our breakfast last year and really left an important, meaningful impression. People talked about it for days and weeks afterwards. Just the power of his story and the way he shares it is so makes it so meaningful to each individual. It's not just his story. He tells his experience is something that all of us can relate to. And so, Kevin, you really changed lives. With
Thank you.
To share your vulnerability is just demonstrates more courage that you've had your entire career, I know. And so it's exciting to see those glimpses of it. So thank you for being here with us today, and we'll get started and have you take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you, Kristen. Thanks so much, everyone, for spending the morning, or at least part of your morning today with us. I can't see all of you. We set it up so that I can only see Kristen and I, in part because if you're like me and you're on a Zoom call, all you're doing is looking behind people and trying to listen, but also see, hey, what do they have in their house? And if you're doing that for mine, that's totally fine. If you look just right down here, you'll see an air conditioner, and you'll notice that it's on the floor and not in the window where it belongs in the summer. And that's because here in Detroit, it is 34 degrees and snowing. And it is April 17th. So it is, so I'm excited to be here, but I'm mostly jealous of the weather that you all have, because like you, we are quarantined inside the house, which actually has been quite fun for us because of a lot of good time with the kids and stuff, but we really wish we could spend more time outside. But I think today's our last day of snow for a while. So anyway, thank you for spending time with me.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thank you, and I hope that works, because I could really use we could use a break from the weather. So, hey, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes with you this morning, and I wanted to talk to you about child abuse in the time of the coronavirus. For all of us, no matter what your field is or specialty is, I know for so many of us, it's hard to talk about anything else except for the virus, because the virus has such an impact on folks financially, on their jobs, obviously their health, and its repercussions are felt, I think, across all aspects of daily life in America. I live in Michigan, and we have some of the strictest stay-at-home orders. We're told not to go out on the lakes. I don't have a boat, but a lot of boaters in our state, we're told not to do that. Really, we're not supposed to go out at all except to get food and take a walk. So it's really permeated throughout our life. So I thought, let's not talk about child abuse outside of what is the elephant in the room, or really the elephant in the world right now, which is the coronavirus. And so what I want to do is talk to you today, this morning, just about kind of two things about the coronavirus. And specifically is, what impact does the coronavirus have on child abuse cases, the kinds of cases that kiddos would come to the local CAC, to Kristen's shop there, to report, to get services, to make disclosures and all of that. What does it look like? And I'm going to start with just the big idea, the big picture, the bottom line up front. We might think that because our kiddos are home, they are less likely, or child abuse generally is going to decrease during the time of the coronavirus. Children are at home, they're with their parents usually, or a guardian, or someone that loves them and cares for them. And therefore, we might think, it might make sense sort of intuitively at first to say, our kids are probably safer now. This might be one offshoot, and one maybe benefit of the coronavirus. My suggestion to you, based on some of the conversations I've had with not only Kristen, but I have CAC CEOs and presidents from around the country that I talk to, and I'm a board member of our local CAC here in Michigan. And I'll tell you that the that intuitive thought is not actually reality. Instead, I think what we are going to see, and it might not bear itself out numbers wise for a couple of months, I think we're going to see an increase of disclosures and reports. And let me tell you why I think that is. So let's talk about two different crimes: physical abuse of kids and online child sexual exploitation. And as I walk through these two ideas, along the way, ask yourself, what about the coronavirus would make this crime less likely or more likely to occur, right? So we'll talk about physical abuse first for our kiddos. We know that most of the time when a child is physically abused, they are physically abused by a parent or a guardian or someone within the home or within a very tight sphere of theirs. Sadly, those are, for our kiddos who are suffering physical abuse, those are the perpetrators of those crimes for our kiddos. So where are we with the coronavirus? Kids are home and they're home with parents. And most of the time that's great because our parents and our guardians love our kiddos. I'm loving the extra time I have with my kids. I was thinking that I will never in my life, probably again, have 2 months straight, all day, every day, hanging out with my crew. And I love that. And it's been great. But for our kiddos who are physically abused or perhaps in a threatened area of possibly being physically abused, being at home might not be the safest place. Well, what else do we know about physical abuse? We know that that parent or guardian, when they explain perhaps the rationale for their abuse, and these are lame reasons, don't misunderstand me, these are no justifications, but we know physical abuse of kiddos increases when there is extra stress, when there are financial problems, and marriage problems, and other stressors on the parent or guardian. Doesn't make them abusers, but it increases the likelihood that our kiddos will suffer abuse. Well, where are we with the coronavirus? A lot of people are stressed out. A lot of people are in close, tight quarters. Financially, people are suffering. And that's even putting aside health issues. There are a lot of stressors on our families around the country, and that puts our kids in a greater threat of being physically abused. So let's turn to the second crime I want to talk about this morning, which is child sexual abuse, and more specifically, online child sexual exploitation. This is my wheelhouse. This is the kinds of cases I've been prosecuting for over a decade. And I can give you just a sort of quick anatomy of one of these cases. But again, the backdrop being, or the overarching thought being, hey, our kids might be a little safer from child predators because they're home, they're protected in their house. Well, now in the 21st century, especially in 2020, so many of our crimes, I would say the majority of our sexual abuse crimes involving children, start on the internet. Back in the day, so when I suffered my abuse as a child, and when others in the 1980s and 90s suffered their abuse, they had to come in contact, some kind of physical contact with their abuser. Mine was a soccer coach, but you had, pastors and preachers, you had coaches, you had teachers, the neighbor next door, babysitters, those kinds of things. But it required this sort of physical interaction for the predator to then take advantage of their kiddo, manipulate, groom, and ultimately sexually abuse our kiddos. But in the age of the internet, most relationships are based online, and that's certainly true for our preteen and teenagers. So what do we have? An anatomy of our kind of typical case runs something like this. The person, we'll call them the hunter, is on the internet, and they are looking for victims. They're looking for people that they have a sexual interest in. And so where that takes them is where teenagers go. And so they're not looking for, if they're looking for teenagers or preteen girls, they're not going on Tinder or Match.com, right? They're finding places where kiddos go. And that means Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, these sort of normal places where our teenagers and preteens are hanging out. This is where our offenders will go. So our offenders will now go there to this place, find a girl or boy that interests them, message that person, and then try to pull them away from this more traditional site, this Instagram or TikTok, to a more secure network. So that could be messages, one-on-one messages with over platforms such as Telegram, WhatsApp, what was the other one? Discord and Kik. Kik is a huge one. And sometimes it's Skype or something else, or even just a regular face-to-face FaceTiming or something over Facebook, things like that. The bottom line is our kiddos aren't out there trying to run into or connect with um, hunters and predators. That's not their goal. They're being kids and they're going to where kids go. But just like bank robbers go to banks because that's where the money is, pedophiles go to teenage-based websites or websites that are fully occupied with teenagers and preteens because that's where the girls are and that's where the boys are and that's what they're interested in. So then that relationship starts, and it starts slowly, and our offender can send messages to 1, 2, 3, 20, 30 girls at one time, giving them compliments and fishing for a kind of relationship. And that's where the grooming and manipulation that we're all probably familiar with starts and continues on. And what I want to talk about when we talk about the anatomy of these cases is if there are 20 girls that get a message from our offender, it only takes one and sometimes two, however many they need to respond. And then that hunter goes into what they're best at, which is paying preteen and teenage girls compliments, giving them a lot of attention. The same for boys, but our teenage girls, I think, are most vulnerable. And then the manipulation and the grooming all starts. So this is anatomy of a case. And what I want to tell you is that I have dozens of those kinds of cases in my office before the virus. And so that meant that our offenders were working against or having to account for their own lives, going to their own jobs and doing their own things that they have to do related to their home, their family, volunteer activities, things like that. And they also had to work against the amount of time our kiddos are not available to them. So when the kids are at school, they can't message them and FaceTime them and work them, essentially. And when our kiddos were at, sports, church, music events, hanging out with their friends, maybe their part-time jobs, all of these things served as barriers for our offenders in their attempt to manipulate, groom, and ultimately sexually assault our kiddos and or sexually exploit our kiddos. Well, now the coronavirus, when we enter that, it wipes away so many of those barriers, right? Kids don't have to be in school. They're supposed to be on their computers. They're supposed to be Zooming and being on camera. Our kiddos don't have to be in, they're not going to their church. They're not going to their concerts. They're not going to their sporting events. All of these barriers have gone away on the kids' side. And on the offender side, same thing. These offenders have to be locked down and working from home too. So we think about how our child sexual abuse cases originate, how they develop, and how they ultimately end up. And it's based on time and energy online with the kiddo. We all have a lot of time, and these folks have a lot of energy to spend their time online. And from the kids' perspective, a lot of parents are changing the rules. We've had to change the rules at our house about how much time you can be online. It's just not something that we can regulate like we wanted to because of homeschooling and other things, this distance learning. So now parents are often giving devices to their kiddos and saying, tell me when you're done with your work. Mm-hmm. What has been set up by the coronavirus and these lockdowns, while it helps us as a society be safer, it adds opportunities for our offenders to get after our kiddos. And so what that means in the world of child advocacy centers, whether you're in Denton, Texas or Detroit, Michigan, it means that there were a lot of kids being sexually exploited. In fact, I was talking to Kristen just before we went on today, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children out of DC, who gets cyber tips about child abuse, passed the 1 million tip mark. Not for this month, not for this year, for this week. It's week to week, they are getting 1 million tips from around the world. And that might seem crazy, and you might think that can't possibly be true. But every child and every adult right now, mm-hmm. very few exceptions, are online. And mm-hmm. online is the hunting ground. And so from our mm-hmm. perspective, we see the coronavirus as providing a very dangerous playground for our offenders, dangerous for our kiddos, and a playground for our offenders. And what will come from this when law enforcement starts to get the reports coming in are a lot of disclosures and a lot of investigations. And so I'm going to stop there with the tale. This sounds awful, right? What a brutal way to start your morning. But I want to finish with two things as we talk about these crimes. One is we are all going to get pulled in a lot of directions when it comes to our energy and our resources, how we're going to, who we're going to donate to, who we're going to spend our time to, what issues we're going to flag as we move away from the lockdown situation with coronavirus. We're going to get pulled in a lot of directions, and there's a lot of worthy causes out there. My suggestion to you is don't sleep on the needs of our local child advocacy center. As we just talked about, those needs are really increasing. It might be counterintuitive, think our kids are safer in their homes, but I think the truth will bear out, or the facts will bear out, that they may be even more vulnerable with all this extra time on their hand. So that's one thought to keep in mind as you start thinking about how you're going to spend your time and energy as we move out of these lockdown situations. Consider us as a local CAC. And the second thing is, even though it's April, even though it's snowing here, and even though we're in lockdown, it is still Child Abuse Prevention Month. All over the country, there are folks with pinwheels in their front yards, out front of their business, in front of my house. I got a dozen pinwheels out there, so people walk by, because everybody's walking now and they're reading signs about Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that pinwheel is our symbol across the country, right? So if you have your extra time, go on to Amazon or Google or talk to Kristen or wherever and try to order some. It's not too late. Order some pinwheels, stick them in your front yard, and let the world know that while coronavirus has taken over our thoughts and energies, we're still thinking, and we're still here to support kiddos who might be in even more danger because of the virus. And that's what I have, Kristen.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kevin. That was so powerful. Your phrase, online has become a hunting ground for our kids, will resonate with me, haunt me all day.
Sorry.
No, it was so powerful, and I think it is so illuminating. And as a mom of teenagers, I'm sitting in my house trying to work from home, and because they're online, it seems easier that I can do my job online. And so I can see how it happens, but the threat is very real, and being aware of that hunting ground is so critical. You said that one way to help out right now is to donate. And so I want to just underscore that. We will not stop serving kids even for a single day at the Children's Advocacy Center for Denton County. We had an incredible donor step forward and say that she knew that this time would be stressful for us and that we might see a decrease in donations. And so she gave us $175,000 matching gift, that if we can get that amount of money, we will get $175,000 from her, and our local community can step up and help. And so whether you give $5, $1,500 or $10,000, know that your gift will be doubled right now. So please go online to our website. It's cacdc.org, and donate to us. It's a great time to make a contribution, and a great time to support the kids and families that are really, really in danger right now. So thank you so much. I couldn't be more proud of our frontline responders, the law enforcement, child protective services workers, and our team at the Children's Advocacy Center, who continue to see kids and continue to conduct these investigations, and provide mental health services so that there is no lack of support for kids. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. And I'm so grateful to you for joining us, Kevin. Sure. As always, wish you the very best. And so grateful for your powerful testimony, and your ongoing advocacy for kids. So thank you.
Thanks so much. See y'all.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.